And before we get started, we're going to go ahead and share some norms, and then we will introduce our guest for this evening. Ok, para nuestros padres, muchas gracias por asistir a nuestra Universidad de Padres. Gracias por su paciencia, que teníamos un poquito de problema con nuestro Zoom, pero aquí estamos y queremos primero, antes de empezar y antes de introducir a nuestros oradores, vamos a hablar un poco sobre las normas y cómo vamos a interactuar para esta sesión. Okay, so I'll introduce myself. My name is Janet Pichardo. I'm the Executive Director of Family Engagement for the Providence School Department. I want to thank you for attending our parent university this evening. We have guests from Hasbro Children's Hospital, who will be talking to us a little bit more about the different community asthma programs there. And so we're really grateful to have them. Le queremos dar la bienvenida a nuestros oradores que son representantes del Hospital Hasbro, de niños de Hasbro, y van a hablar sobre los programas de asma. Entonces, now, so I'm going to go ahead and just move on with our screen here. If everyone can just follow along. I have them here in English and in Spanish. Again, just some features that we want to go through before we get started. Entonces, aquí tenemos información en inglés y en español. Pueden leerlo mientras yo también lo repito en inglés y lo pueden mirar hacia abajo. Right now, the presentation will be a webinar format. You will not be able to see each other, only the panelists and facilitator. Ahora mismo lo que quería decirles es que para las personas que necesitan la presentación en español, antes que se me olvide, por favor, si miran hacia abajo de su pantalla, van a ver el globo donde le da la opción de elegir un idioma. Cuando le hacen clic al globo, van a ver el idioma español como una opción. De una vez que presionan ese icono, van a empezar a escuchar nuestro intérprete. Tenemos dos y van a compartir el tiempo durante el transcurso de esta sesión. So what I just did right now was just share with our families who need Spanish interpretation, to be aware of how to access the interpretation feature. And so I may repeat that in a few minutes as well. So the presentation will be a webinar format. You will not be able to see each other, only the panelists and facilitators. Reminder to be respectful of each other's comments and lived experiences. This is a safe place to learn together. Not adhering to this norm may result in being removed from the Zoom. The panelists will try to answer as many questions as possible, and microphones of all attendees will be muted unless the attendees raise their hand to ask their question live. The session will be recorded and posted in the district website YouTube channel. And here we are just sharing what is our website. Okay, these are some of the features. At the very top is what I just explained of accessing the interpretation. La parte de arriba, solamente de nuevo para recordarle, los padres que acaban de llegar, si necesitan traducción de esta presentación, por favor, si pueden darle clic aquí arriba donde ven el globo, dice interpretation, pero está en su pantalla, hacia abajo de su pantalla. Háganle clic al globo y de una vez le va a aparecer el idioma español para que puedan elegir, y de una vez cuando le hacen clic al idioma van a poder empezar a escuchar nuestros intérpretes. If you're, another way to also access the interpretation access is, that if you're logging in from a phone or a tablet, that you may actually have to find the interpretation feature by clicking on the more, the three dots, and there you will go ahead and find interpretation as an option. So si usted está entrando en nuestro Zoom por teléfono o tableta, tendría que seguramente darle clic a donde dice más, en inglés more, los tres puntitos aquí en el medio de la pantalla ahora mismo. Si le hace clic ahí, seguramente van a ver la opción de elegir el idioma español. De una vez de nuevo que hagan clic, van a tener acceso al intérprete. And then at the very bottom, I'm sorry, you have raise hand and also Q&A. these will be the two options you have to provide comments, also ask questions. So if you raise your hand, that will allow you to to actually ask your question live. We will call your name as it appears on your video. And then we will ask you to unmute. We are not able to unmute you, so it's really important that you be prepared to unmute yourself. And then if you are asking a question that you prefer to put in writing, you are able to click on Q&A and go ahead and write your question. It could be written in English or in Spanish. Okay, and again, the chat right now most likely is just available for ourselves as panelists. But what we wanted to just make sure is that you're aware that in terms of the chat, it's not available to you, but it's available to us as panelists. We will be letting you know when we will insert any links that we will need for you to complete, but we will alert you to that, okay? And then the last piece here that I wanted to share was just that we do have giveaways at the very end of the session. So as soon as our presenters complete their presentation, we will go into a process of receiving feedback from you. So we will ask you to click on a link that we will insert in the chat, and we will ask you to complete those questions, and then we'll grab your names and put them in a wheel, and you'll see it right on your screen. You'll see your name, and as it goes around, and we'll go ahead and we'll do item 1, 2, and 3. As you can see here, we are in Christmas time, so the holidays are nearing, getting closer. And so we have some items here that you probably will find very helpful to be able to give as a gift. So the last two, the item 2 and 3, these are specifically children's gifts. And so the middle one is for a boy, and the very bottom is for a girl. And the top is a blanket. Okay, so we will go through those at the very end. So please do not leave. We really appreciate your time. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it to our guests for this evening. They're representatives from Hasbro, but I will go ahead and just let them introduce themselves. Barbara and Ms. Ortiz.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the kind introduction. We're tremendously pleased to be here and so appreciate our colleagues from the Providence Public School Department. My name is Dr. Barbara Yondasek, and I am the Director of Education with the Community Asthma Programs at Hasbro Children's Hospital.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here tonight. Thank you so much for being able to be provided with this time in order for us to be able to connect with your community. We've been able to work with the Providence community for many, many years, and we're pleased to re-engage through this new avenue of communication. So thank you for opening the doors through this amazing portal of communication. My name is Ms. Ortiz. I am the Outreach Program Coordinator at Hasbro Children's Hospital. And truly pleased to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your introduction, everyone. What I wanted to do, if I can just, because we have families that are coming in, we have 30 participants right now. And so what we want to do is just remind families that have come in a little bit later of how to access our interpreters. De nuevo, para recordarle a nuestros padres que acaban de llegar, para poder escuchar esta presentación completamente en español, si miran hacia abajo de su pantalla, pueden ver el globo que dice Interpretation, que ya en español quiere decir interpretación. Entonces, si le hacen clic a ese globo, van a ver la opción de elegir el idioma español. Cuando le hacen clic a español, de una vez van a empezar a escuchar a nuestros intérpretes que van a estar con nosotros hasta el final de la presentación. Muchas gracias por su participación. También quería recordarle que si miran hacia abajo van a ver QIA y también levantar sus manos donde dice Raise Hand. Esas dos maneras van a poder compartir con nosotros sus preguntas o comentarios. Entonces, por favor, cualquier comentario, por favor, pónganlo en el QIA o levantar su mano más tarde. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
And Janet, just a quick question. in terms of this interpretation feature, I want to make sure we're maximizing the experience for our Spanish speakers. Is there anything that we should know in terms of how this works? And certainly we're happy to be interrupted at any point.
Yes. So no, basically you present and we're hoping that you, you know, understand that we do have interpreters. So if you can kind of try to just keep to a nice pace that they can follow along. And pretty much if you're going too fast, they'll give me a hint. They'll tell me something in the chat and I'll let you know.
Good. I appreciate that because I want to make sure that everybody catches the information that we're providing.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Is it okay if we share screen and start our presentation? Okay.
Please move forward. Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, so just want to verify everybody can see that.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes, you're all set. Yeah.
So as Janet mentioned, we are here today to tell you a bit about a little bit of background about pediatric asthma in Rhode Island, and especially to tell you more about the community asthma programs and our initiatives and what we have to offer families. So in terms of our learning objectives today, we wanted to give you a little bit of background about asthma, cover just a few of the basic facts. We're very passionate about asthma, and we want to make sure that people know why it's such an important health condition to be aware of. We'll tell you a little bit about asthma's effects on children and the importance of asthma management. And then the majority of our time, we want to make sure that the audience is familiar with the different initiatives that the community asthma program has to offer and how to get in contact with us to participate or to learn more. So just to provide some background about asthma, we know that over 6 million children in the United States have asthma. So this makes asthma one of the most common chronic health conditions. The prevalence of asthma is about 10%, or a little bit less when we average across all the states in the United States. However, here in Rhode Island, we actually have higher rates of asthma when we compare it to the overall rate for the United States. So asthma is an even bigger issue in Rhode Island, and even more common in cities. So that's really important for our Providence community because we know that there are a lot of communities around Providence, and certainly those in the elementary schools of Providence, where asthma prevalence might be more like 20%. So if you think about your children's classrooms, if your child has 20 children in their classroom, that would mean that about 4 children might have asthma. And of course, the asthma might look different for those children, but 4 children within the classroom are expected to have asthma. The other thing that is really important to know is that asthma is a very serious condition. Usually I don't have to convince parents of this who are familiar with caring for children with asthma, but not everybody knows this, right? And asthma does sometimes cause a lot of health problems, and it is still a condition that sometimes, you know, people die from. I have to say, happily, that's increasingly rare. So fewer and fewer people actually pass away from asthma, and typically that would occur in older people, and typically that would occur if asthma is not well managed. So that leads to the important point that asthma can be really disruptive, right? It really disrupts the lives of children and families. It's a bit of a mystery, I think, to a lot of people. It's a very tricky condition because it can change over time. So what asthma looks like for a very young child, it might look different in that same child when they're older. And also asthma varies a lot from individual to individual. So if you have those 4 children in your child's classroom with asthma, each of their health presentations of asthma is going to look very different. We know from working with our local families in our community that many children and many families, unfortunately, do not have the information that they need and the resources that they need to keep asthma well controlled. And this leads to a lot of disruption for parents. I'm sure many parents have experienced this here, where you're taking your child to the doctor frequently, sometimes even to the emergency room. Sometimes your child might have to stay in the hospital, right? And that certainly affects your family life and your work life. And we also know that asthma can have an incredible impact on children's schooling. So asthma actually is the leading cause of school absences. It causes over 13.8 million lost days of school per year, which is just incredible to me. And we know that often, even if students are able to make it to school, they might be coming in late, or many of our students have asthma at night and it disrupts their sleep. And then they're sleepy at school, or they might be irritable. They can't focus. They can't concentrate. They fall behind on their work. So unfortunately, for our children with asthma, it really can affect their academic function. It can really affect how they do in school, because they're not, even if they're coming to school, they're kind of not coming to school ready to learn. So keeping asthma well controlled is key. And like I said, fortunately, there are many, many things that we know about doing that and many programs available. At Hasbro Children's Hospital, we have kind of 3 arms of programming that address pediatric asthma. The first is the clinical care arm at Hasbro. So there's the asthma and immunology department, where many children within the area might go to see an asthma specialist or a pulmonologist. We also have many research programs, and that's done through the Childhood Asthma Research Program. And then, of course, the community asthma programs, who we're here representing today. And we are really the arm that helps to provide education to families directly to help improve children's asthma. Now, I have to say, many of us work across all 3 of these branches. And the really huge benefit of having these different branches is that we talk to one another. We make sure that we're kind of together strengthening our programs overall, and that we're really cutting edge and making sure that we have any new information integrated. So like I mentioned, there are many steps that can be taken to managing children's asthma. And the important thing that we really want parents to know is that when their children's asthma is well controlled, children should be able to do everything other kids can do. We hear so often that children wish they could play a sport, or they're, having to sit out of recess sometimes. And we really want to emphasize that if you notice that's happening to your child, that's a sign that, there should be some changes, right? And so hopefully we'd be able to offer some education to help. Here are just some of the topics that our families learn. And I'll tell you more about the specific ways that we teach families in a moment. But we make sure that we teach all families about the basics of asthma, where asthma happens, what's happening in the body when asthma symptoms occur, how to recognize asthma signs and symptoms, and which symptoms are considered danger signs and what to do in those scenarios. We teach families about the different types of medications, and there's always changes that are happening here. So this is really important. And also a lot of confusion about asthma medicines, for good reason. They are pretty confusing. And children's prescriptions might change pretty often as well. We teach families about asthma triggers. So asthma triggers are things that basically bring on asthma symptoms. There are many different types and different ways to address asthma triggers so that you can help manage your child's asthma. And then we really emphasize the importance and give families strategies and tips around collaborating with children's healthcare providers and with schools. So school nurses are treasures and definitely want to help. And we know that often it can be challenging for families to forge those connections. So we give some strategies around that. What do our participants receive? As I mentioned, many useful strategies, tools, and resources. We do try to make sure that each person who attends walks away with some golden nuggets of information that's going to help their child and their family. But we do also give some physical objects. So we give an asthma kit. That kit includes many pieces of information, written information in there. And it also includes a spacer, which you see in this picture here. So this is a very important device that should be used with inhalers to make sure that the medicine is properly inhaled and goes to the lungs. So that is an object that we do provide to participating families. And then sometimes more, depending on the specific kind of program that families enroll in and that they're eligible for. So the community asthma program has quite a long history. We've been servicing Rhode Island communities and really focused heavily in the Providence community for more than 20 years. We've gone by many names. So we have our Draw a Breath icon here. And these programs started over 20 years ago with a generous donation from the Van Alsburg family and a donation from CVS Pharmacy. And they have really grown over time. So we'll go over what our specific initiatives are now. One thing that I wanted to highlight that has occurred within the last few years was that we had received some funding from the National Institutes of Health for a program called RI-AIR, which stands for the Rhode Island Asthma Integrated Response Program. And this funding was really exciting for several reasons. It allowed us to really improve upon our interventions. We were able to include many different kinds of community partners, including parents such as yourselves, including school personnel, school nurses, physicians, to improve our programs and develop an integrated approach. And this includes automating of our referrals, integrating screening and referral to appropriate programs. So anyone who comes in through our programs now is referred to the program that's going to most benefit them. So we have, ones that are more intensive, that are families who have children with very poorly controlled asthma are eligible for. And then we have programs that are less intensive because some people don't need that level of investment. And then another really important piece that we do is coordination of care. So we've worked closely with the healthcare providers and school nurses of our enrolled families to get updated asthma action plans and make sure that everybody is on board with the appropriate plan for managing that child's asthma. Many Providence elementary schools have participated in this program over the past several years. And we're actually in the process of kind of revamping our permissions to do some more programming with the Providence elementary schools, which is very exciting. The other piece about RIR that was very exciting to us was that it allowed us to evaluate how we're doing. Are we making a difference for families? Are we making a difference for schools? And so we were able to really look at that, make improvements, and see some good results. So I wanted to share a little bit about that with you as well. So our findings were positive, and we found that RIR really did help families. Families reported that they gained confidence in managing their child's asthma. We know that their children's asthma symptoms actually decreased and that their asthma control scores improved. Children also had fewer emergency room visits and hospitalizations. So asthma wasn't controlling their lives as much. And then we also know that families experienced better coordination of care. So here we have a nice quote from a parent that said, "It's a great program. It definitely changed my life and my son's life." The other thing that we were very excited to find out, because our schools are such an important partner for us, were that schools really benefit from a variety of supports that we provide to enhance students' asthma management. And so our school staff report improved asthma knowledge and confidence in supporting children's asthma management after participating in RIAIR. So really for, students who are in the school environment all day long, this is so important to make sure that there are people there who know about asthma and how to help them take care of it. Here we have another quote from a parent that said, "The asthma program, it got me what I needed. They got the asthma action plan filled out for me. They offered it to the school nurse. It was great." We have a little image here of an asthma action plan, which is a very important document. So in terms of the procedures, kind of bringing us to current procedures and program offerings, the RIAIR, the integrated program that we have to help us provide services, is still in place. Many of the structures are still in place. So we were able to improve our procedures, automate a lot of things, and we've been able to keep that going. So our referral procedures, much of it is automated. So if your child ends up going to the emergency room or being hospitalized at Hasbro Children's Hospital, you may get a call from us. We will get a referral saying, this child was in the ER for asthma. They may benefit from your program. So if you do get that call, we are legitimate, and please know that we'd love to help you and your family. Families also can self-refer for our programs, and we will put that link in the chat. So you can actually this evening fill out a brief survey online just by clicking on the link, and that will come directly to us, and one of our staff members can give you a call. If you're on our call list, please know you can be removed at any time, if you supply your information. You could also take a screenshot of the link or copy and paste it and share it with any other family members or friends who have children with asthma that may be interested in participating. So after somebody is referred to us, our staff will contact that family by phone, and they conduct a screening. So they ask some questions of the family to learn a little bit more about the child's asthma, and really to gauge what that child's level of asthma control is, and to make sure that family is matched to the appropriate available programs. So we have some of the programs listed here. We have a school-based program, which we nicknamed CASE. That stands for Controlling Asthma in Schools Effectively. We have an intensive home-based program, which is nicknamed HARP. And then we have our traditional hospital-based classes. And then finally, an initiative that's very near and dear to our hearts, because it's just so much fun, is Asthma Camp. So I'm going to hand it over to Mia Sotis now. And while she's speaking, I will put that link in the chat if that's okay.
Thank you, Dr. Jandasic. Hello, everyone. So now I am going to introduce some of the programs, the initiatives that Dr. Jandasic was able to introduce initially. This one in particular is called CASE. CASE stands for Controlling Asthma in School Effectively. And this particular program, it's a round of program that incorporates caregivers, children, and school personnel. The mission of this program is actually to improve asthma outcomes of within the urban school children in Greater Providence, to provide support and training to schools and personnel in the urban settings. So we are pleased to be able to be working in collaboration with our Providence School community. And I'm sorry, we just got interrupted with the slides. So bear with me for just 1 second. I will share it. Okay.
Ms. Ortiz, while you are just getting your slides, just let me remind families that if they have any questions, that they can enter the questions in writing in the Q&A. Just click on the Q&A at the very bottom of your screen and ask your question or comment, please. Please let us know if you can also just add a hello in the Q&A. We just want to make sure that the feature is working in case you do have any questions or comments. You also can raise your hand. So if you see the very bottom of your screen, you'll see raise hand. You can click on that. And also, if you prefer to ask your question live, please go ahead and do that. So we just want to make sure, please, a reminder, you are able to enter any questions or comments in the Q&A. And as soon as our presenters, want to take either a quick break for just to take some questions, or at the very end of their presentation, they'll start and provide, some time to ask questions, okay? So I do see some comments already in the Q&A, so I'm glad the feature is working. Okay, go ahead, Ms. Ortiz.
Thank you, Janet. Janet, and I know that we were, Dr. Yandasek was interrupted, but I send you the link if in case you want to circulate that while I'm continuing the presentation. Thank you so much. Okay, everyone. So to go back into providing more information pertaining to CASE program, the program is delivered in partnership with specific schools that have been chosen and have been identified. We have conducted many of these programs at the Providence Elementary School in years past. And we're working on re-engaging with the Providence School Department and hoping to offer this through the Providence Public School Elementary Schools in the near future, which we know that it would benefit the community, the children, and families overall. Programs at each of the school that is offered is actually held during the day program if it's for student, and during the evening time for caregivers, for parents, because we understand that many of our families are not available in the morning. Therefore, we want to make sure that we are accommodating them in the evening time. So certainly this program is provided in the evening. We also have been able to offer the program remotely to some of the families that have not been able to attend in person. Which this is something that we learned new from the pandemic. And I'm sure that everyone has been able to practice this like we're doing tonight. Programs are also held in a group session for some of the CASE programs, and are also held in the school ground, which families are much more familiar with and are able to navigate or actually be able to attend there with no concerns. And we certainly thank the schools for being able to open the doors to our programs and be able to host programs there. The child program takes place during the school day, like I mentioned earlier, and children are normally enrolled. I believe that Dr. Dandasic may have mentioned this early on. We do go through the process of pre-screening and being able to identify which program would benefit the children, families the best. Therefore, they gear towards that program and are able to then be scheduled and participate within the program. We provide details of what the program will entail and how we will carry on. The caregivers program and all of our programs overall actually are being provided in both languages, English and Spanish. And they are provided during the after school hours. For most part, the student programs are held in English, but there have been occasions where we have been able to provide the services to our children that are in need of the interpretation. These programs are also held for children between the ages of 6 to 12, the ones that we host in school during school hours. For children that are older, we invite them to attend with their caregivers and be able to join and learn from others. It is a community program, and this also includes staff members, like we mentioned earlier. Now, in terms of the HEART program, early on, it was mentioned that, and before I actually go on, so HEART, it's an acronym for asthma, for home-based asthma response plan. This program is actually a much more intensive program. You may have heard that early on when the presentation first began. This is a much more intensive asthma intervention program. And rather than doing a group session, what we do is we do it it's geared towards family on a one-on-one session. It is a collaboration with the Rhode Island Department of Health and United Health Plan. So we do have a very close relationship and collaboration with them in order to be able to service our community. It also provides an asthma education. Like I said earlier, it's geared towards a one-on-one session rather than a group session. We do a home visit, and we visit the participants in home. And this is to accommodate the families. This program also entitles a walkthrough, which is an intensive home environmental walkthrough to be able to identify some of the triggers that may exist within the home and identify what to do in order to remediate some of these triggers. This is an intensive program that it's geared toward toward families with children with very poor controlled asthma. And that's why it's much more intensive, and we do a much more confidential one-on-one session with the family. It's based on a 3 home visits program. And the first home visit, it's held at the family's home. All 3 visits are held at the family's home. The first one, it's more of an education. It's a combination of an education and a walkthrough. And during that time, we'll be able to create a goal plan and educate families in terms of the differences between medication and how to be able to manage asthma, in addition to identifying a lot of the triggers or many of the triggers that we find in their home. Second home visit, it's it's more of a drop-off session. We provide we provide many of the supplies that have to do with remediation of what the triggers that we identify are in the home and how to address that. For example, we are able to provide them with a HEPA vacuum, which is a value of about $300, and we are able to provide all the supplies for free to families in order for them to assist their children. And there are many other supplies, such as an encasement, an allergen, an asthma encasement for their bedding and their pillows, and amongst other items that are provided to the family during this home visit. The third and last home visit, it's to recap and see how much the family has learned, how much they have been able to improve a lot of what they've learned during the first home visit. And at that point in time, revisit the asthma action plan. As Dr. Barbara Dasek mentioned earlier, we work very closely with providers and also the family to make sure that they are able to obtain an asthma action plan. And at that point in time, we're able to generate a goal plan and see whether or not they have been able to reach it and how they're going to move forward to continue accomplishing it. So that is the home-based asthma response plan. Moving forward is we also have the hospital-based classes, which is a group session class. Many of our families may have known this program as the Draw Breath program that have been held in the community for over 2 decades. It's a group-based asthma management education. We have been able to engage with many of the schools in Rhode Island, and not just one particular district, but many of the schools in Rhode Island. We certainly look forward to continue engaging in the Providence school system, because it's the city and this is where we find that our highest utilization exists. So we certainly want to make sure that we are servicing our community and be able to assist them in many ways. Caregivers and family members are certainly invited to attend this particular class. This class is held at the Hasbro, it's held as at the Hasbro base in Rhode Island, which is at the hospital. And we invite them, we go through the process of pre-screening, provide them with the most suitable program that would benefit the family. And once they are screened and identified to be able to attend this hospital-based class, then they are able to be registered to a one-time class. So these are all one-time classes, with the exception of the intensive program, that they attend here at Hasbro. And once they attend, they're able to be provided with a group session educational class. We do advise the parents that there is an out-of-pocket expense that goes directly, we do bill the insurance, but the insurance should be able to provide them with detailed information on any out-of-pocket expenses towards the parents. So we do provide information to the parents to be able to contact their insurance information, the insurance company about this. Moving forward, it's our passionate program that have been going for, again, this one has been for over 2 decades. And I have to say that after a brief pause during the pandemic, we were able to re-engage and happily report that this past summer, we re-engaged with our camps and were able to provide this amazing program, 4 days asthma camp program, to our children. And they actually didn't even want to go home afterwards. We recruit children and families between the ages of 9 to 13. It is a philanthropy funded program, so there's absolutely no out-of-pocket expenses. We do have the families complete a very thorough application, and we are actually going to be starting recruitment sometime in late January, February. Therefore, be ready and certainly be able to reconnect with us if you are interested to be part of this program. Our children are exposed to triggers, so because it's a huge camp, but they're exposed with a purpose. The reason for it is because we want them to learn how to manage their asthma. We want them to understand that they can live and they can do anything they want to do as long as they're in control. So they learn the differences between rescue meds and control medication, in addition to recognizing symptoms and other aspects of asthma and how to manage it. And this is the perfect opportunity for them to be able to engage and be able to learn in a safe environment. It is a day camp model. Previously, it was an overnight camp. But we have been able to practice a day camp model, and it seems that our children and families are delighted, including our staff. And certainly we look forward to continue practicing this. So please stay tuned to be able to attend a future camp for 2024. Now, in terms of other initiatives, other programs, is the Childhood Asthma Research Program. Many of our clinical intervention opportunities have been able to evolve from this programs. There are many programs under the Childhood Asthma Research Program that your families can also take advantage of. And we encourage you to complete a consent to contact form in order for you to be able to receive the call from our personnel and be able to be provided with different details of programs that may benefit your family. Families that are interested, again, we encourage you to please contact us, and we'll be happy to provide you with detailed information of this various programs.
And Mio, if I may just quickly say, in terms of the research programs, some of the current ones that you may have heard about, and just know that they are also connected to us, have to do with asthma and sleep, because we know we didn't talk too much about it. We touched on it when we talked about how asthma affects school, but we know there are a lot of different things that can happen between asthma and children's sleep. And so we're trying to better understand exactly what the implications are for children and for their immune function and for their health overall, so that we can kind of figure out how to better help families. I don't know if folks can see, I tried to put some things in the chat, and I just put a link in the chat that's a sign up for research programs, but I don't know if participants can see that. So perhaps Janet can share with folks if not. And then I also shared the link for consent to contact for the community asthma programs. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Yeah, Dr. Yandasek, I'm actually really glad that you did, because it reminded me of other programs that are in existence in the CARP lab, which have to do with peer programs. We have an amazing program that our high schoolers are actually instructing our middle school children in terms of the aspect of important aspect of managing asthma. And I was delighted to witness how much they learn and how they've been able to grow and become instructor themselves in order to be able to teach other and feed from that. So certainly we love to see that engagement, because they are our future. Thank you for bringing that up, and certainly that reminder. Thank you. Now, in order to find us, please look at the screen. This is our contact information. We are delighted and happy to provide you with absolutely any information that you may be looking for. If we don't have it, we will look for it and certainly be back in touch with you. We have sent a link. Janet, I'm not sure if you received the link that I sent earlier in order to be able to be circulated. And it's a survey that we're hoping to get it to everyone in the audience in order to have you complete an interest and consent form, and it'll come directly to our offices, and we'll be able to give you a call, to have our personnel give you a call and introduce more detail of the program. Also, it is very, very important. We cannot emphasize the importance of you having a connection and a collaboration with your school directly, with your school nurses, with the healthcare provider, keeping a diary and bringing it back to them. Certainly, it is very important for you to communicate effectively in order for them to be able to assist you in so many ways. At this time, I'm gonna, Dr. Jandasek, if you can share that flyer, that would be awesome. I'm sorry, I don't have the flyer with me, but she will share that flyer.
I will do so. I will do so. And it looks like a few families were looking for information in the chat, but they could not see that there.
Yep. If they can, I'm going to just ask them now if they can go back and see if they can see it now. I just looked at the feature and they should be able to see it now. Si pueden mirar el chat y por favor dejarnos saber si pueden mirar el enlace que se le compartió. Por favor, si pueden responder esta pregunta en el chat. If you can respond to the chat, respond through Q&A and let me know if you are able to see the link in the chat. Okay.
And here we have some information about an upcoming program that will be held at Hasbro Children's Hospital. And this is a hospital-based program. And I wanted to mention too, if people have any trouble with the link, there is a phone number here. You're also welcome to call. We love the old-fashioned way of talking to people by phone also, and need to do that in any case to register families. So this is going to be a program for parents to learn more about asthma. It will be held, as I said, at Hasbro Children's Hospital. We have the address here. It'll be held in late January on Wednesday, the 24th at 5:30 p.m. We may also host a program for children on that date. And we will cover all the topics that we talked about today in detail, provide families with many strategies, the asthma kit with the spacer. We also are able to provide families with transportation if needed. We do provide pizza to make sure that people have their bellies full and can focus on the information. And then just like I was excited to hear about Janet's raffle, we also do a raffle. And so, you know, as a way of thanking families for attending our programs. So again, if you're interested in this program, please give us a call or you can fill out that link.
I also just shared, was able to notice that I was able to share the survey to everyone. So I'm hoping that I haven't seen any registration coming through, but I would love to answer any questions if you have any trouble trying to complete the survey and submitting it.
Thank you. And I will put a post here also. There's a direct sign up for the research, one of the research programs. I believe that should be a live link. And also should have information about how to contact them by phone.
Gracias a todos. Ha sido un gran placer tener esta oportunidad de poderle servir a nuestra comunidad. Gracias. Sí. ¿Alguna pregunta acerca del programa? Any questions that you may have about the program that you wish for us to respond? I see someone just submitted another. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to confirm that our attendees, if you're able to see the chat, please let us know in the Q&A. And also make sure to click on the links that were just shared. So that way, again, Yusotis and Barbara are asking that you participate. Was it in the second link? Yusotis, if you can put it if you can insert it again, so that way families can see it right away.
Just did, Janet. Can you see it?
I can. I'm gonna just ask our participants if they can let us know in the Q&A.
Excellent.
Si los participantes no pueden dejar saber que pueden mirar el chat y mirar el último enlace que Miosotis acaba de entrar. Es como una encuesta. Por favor, si pueden darle clic a ese enlace para que puedan contestar esas preguntas antes que se vayan, por favor. Si pueden mirar en el chat. Pueden mirar el chat. Sí o no, por favor. If you can see the chat, say yes or no in the Q&A.
It looks like somebody was asking if the link was for the programs or for the research, and the link that Miosotis put up is for the clinical programs, for the educational programs. Oh, you're typing an answer.
I'm sorry. So the last one that she just entered is one that you are asking families to respond to?
Yes.
Entonces, el último enlace, por favor, miren el chat. Ese es para que puedan darle clic y de nuevo contestar las preguntas, por favor. Thank you so much for responding in the Q&A. Okay. please don't leave because we have giveaways, okay? Again, we're asking that you ask questions in the Q&A. Let us know what you might be curious about, what perhaps you want to know more about. I believe there was a question at the very top. So we have a parent who asked a question in Spanish. My child had 2 asthma attacks when she was younger. Does this mean that she still has asthma?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Asthma can be very difficult to diagnose in young children. And so what we would recommend is definitely for her to speak with her child's medical provider about that history and make sure that they had a diagnosis of asthma. One important thing to know, and there's a big myth about asthma, that asthma, you can outgrow it, right? That's a myth. That means that is not true. Asthma changes over time, but really, once you have asthma, your airways are just slightly different. It might not show up for you as often when you're older, but you still have asthma. And so that's really important to know. So if that child had an asthma diagnosis, they probably still have asthma.
There are no other questions right now. I guess I have a question. I'm so happy that you mentioned, how asthma impacts students' daily attendance. Every year we are emphasizing how important students are in on a daily basis. And so is there anything else that you can share for families to assist with the management of asthma to avoid the absences? I'm not sure if there's anything like some guidance, some tips that perhaps you can share.
Yeah, I'll say there are many, many components to asthma management, which is why we, when we have an education class for families, we have them captive for an hour and a half to tell them all about the different things. So there are many, many different steps, and it does depend slightly on your child. One important tip that we would share is to make sure to talk to the school nurse. Make sure your school nurse knows that your child has asthma. And what we often see is that parents are fearful of sending their child to school when their child has asthma, even if they had their medicine and they're doing okay. Mm-hmm. So this is why it's so important to form a good relationship with the school and the school nurse. Make sure that your school nurse has an asthma action plan. And if your child had asthma, at night and they're feeling better in the morning, send them to school. Let the school nurse know, though, what's going on. Your school nurse will check in on them. They'll make sure that they're safe and they're doing okay. School nurses really appreciate that communication from parents. The other thing that we say is, even if you're taking students to school or children to school late, do so, right? So if they had problems with their asthma in the morning, but they take their medicine and they're doing better, take them to school even if they're going in late, so that they're getting as much of the educational content and they can stay up to date as much as possible.
Another question. So we have a few, so let me just see what's on here.
Yeah, there are a few questions on here. There's one. Do you want me to?
Go ahead. Actually, the Jaleen Mota, she's saying that she can't see the survey. I can see the link for the program. Okay. So again, the very last one that you shared, right, should be the link for the survey.
Yeah, I can re-share it again. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll read a question while you go ahead and do that. So I just read the prior comment, though my child does cough, has not been diagnosed with asthma. Is it okay that I did the survey?
Yes, that's absolutely fine. As we mentioned, we will have our staff call families and screen them. And there are many families who, don't have a formal diagnosis, but based on answers, it might be that their child is likely to have asthma or to develop asthma. And so they may be eligible for some of the programs as well. So, it's fine to fill it out if your child has some symptoms, or if you're not sure if they have a diagnosis. We will screen and figure out if you are eligible for the programs. And also, again, in those cases, I would say talk to your child's doctor to kind of see what their diagnosis is. Make sure that you're in close touch with the healthcare provider.
Okay, another question. Should a child always use their QVAR inhaler every day? Every day?
Yes, there's a lot of confusion about medicines and how to use them. So definitely make sure that you are following the healthcare provider's instructions. Controller medications are medicines that should be used daily. And everybody has, people who have those have different doses. So really you'd have to talk to the doctor.
Okay. Just a quick question. I'm asthmatic. Could it be possible that my children then eventually become asthmatic?
It's
She's
possible. There
afraid.
is.
She's asking the question because she's scared about that. Because it is, I guess she has a version of asthma that's strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Es algo muy fuerte.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have many families who have a strong family history of asthma. There is a genetic component, so it's possible. And it doesn't mean that your child will necessarily develop it. So I know that's not, a solid answer. But I think important to know that it's possible that they may develop asthma at some point. And again, important for their doctor to know that you have asthma and that you have pretty severe asthma.
Okay.
But
The
I
next
guess,
question.
sorry, I guess I would want to, for that parent who shared that they have some fear of that, I would just want to say also, that fear is very common. And I think just to know that there's a lot more known about asthma than when you were young, right? And so I think often as parents, we worry about what happened to us when we were younger, and the medicines available, what we know about asthma is completely different now. So hopefully, if your child did develop asthma, hopefully they'd be able to manage it much more.
Okay. This parent is asking, her child is 14, was diagnosed with asthma at a very young age. He has nose bleeds when the air or the climate is very dry or hot. And he hasn't been able to participate in sports. He receives injections for the asthma and allergies and still hasn't gotten better. What else do you think could help?
Yeah, so it sounds like this child probably has some other conditions, and certainly asthma and allergies co-occur very often. So one thing I would just make sure that person is seeing a specialist, perhaps, because it sounds like allergies are a strong component. And if the asthma also is not, the asthma and the allergies are not becoming better controlled over time, then that would indicate that seeing a specialist would be important.
Okay. And I know,
Janet, if I can add into that, just for that parent, también si puede mantener un diario de lo que le está pasando al niño y llevárselo al doctor, sería una muy buena referencia de lo que le está pasando al niño, para que ellos entonces puedan envasar la información historial de lo que le está pasando y así poder proveerle más ayuda, que pueda ser el alergias, el asma, puede ser otras cosas que puedan ellos diagnosticar. Es muy importante tener un diario de información.
okay, and Ms. Ortiz, if you can translate that to English.
Oh, sure.
I was going to take a stab, but
Either or, go ahead.
No, you go, Mio.
Yeah, I saw the question in Spanish, so I decided to answer in Spanish.
Sure.
It is, we also encourage, adding to what Dr. Jandasic said, it's also encouraging families to please keep a diary, use your telephone, use any type of device that you can have on hand to be able to report back to your doctor or to your specialist. And they will be able to go back into the history of what has been transpiring during the time that he's been symptomatic until now, and be able to determine what exactly is happening and how can they further assist them. So it is important to keep a diary of information of what's going on and at what time, what did it happen, where he was, and so forth.
Yeah, one thing about asthma that's tricky is that, you know, some health conditions, the doctor can do a blood test and they can see how well controlled that health condition is, right? For diabetes, for example. For asthma, they can't really do it the same way. It really relies on how often people are having symptoms, which is just us reporting, I can't remember what I had for breakfast this morning, right? So keeping a written diary really helps the doctor know how often things are happening, how severe the asthma is, how disruptive it is, and it helps to guide their treatment planning.
Exactly.
Ms. Ortiz, if you want to take the next question, read it out loud, because I think the asthma, the pump, I'm saying it wrong. So go ahead.
No problem. My son has been diagnosed with asthma since he was 4, and ever since has gotten really sick with various colds. They just gave him Qvard recently. Do you think that's a good steroid going forward? Gave him home Qvard.
Yeah, I think that was just a typo. Gave him Qvar.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a commonly used medicine. And I'd say that the type of medicine, controller medicine, that a prescriber or a physician chooses depends on your child's medical history. So we can't really tell you, because we don't know your child's medical history,
Right.
whether that fits their profile or not. But I can definitely say that's a very common one that's commonly used. And so, you know, it's a good medicine. But for parents who aren't on Qvar and who are hearing this, you know, your child may be on a different controller medicine because of, you know, their kind of asthma. There are different types of asthma, different presentations, different severity levels. And so physicians are choosing very carefully what fits your child.
Right.
Quick question. Are there are there any tips that you can share for families that might be finding it difficult to provide guidance to their children as they're trying to understand what their own condition is? Because even when a parent doesn't have a lot of, you know, doesn't know how to use the medical terms, but even to describe what asthma is, I don't know, are there, you know, 2 or 3 different tips that you can share? And I guess if it could be not only for elementary school, but even as children are growing up, you know, at the middle school level, at the high school level, where now the child is more conscious, right? And sometimes may be embarrassed by the fact that they have this condition. I'm not sure if that's the case, but
Yeah.
If you can provide some guidance for a family, how to go about just helping support that child to understand and accept their condition.
Yeah. I guess I would say you can probably guess my number 1 tip, which would be come to our program because they get to learn about their asthma with a group of students, children who also have asthma. And that's really powerful, I think, for children not to feel alone. You know, it is common that, you know, when we have something, we think we're the only one in the world, or it's, you know, it's challenging, right? So I think that's a really important tip, because they can come and they can learn with others, and they hear from other children about what it's like. And, you know, when the children are sharing asthma triggers, you know, oh, I'm allergic to that too. And that feels good, right? To know that you're not alone. So that would be my number 1 tip. One of the research programs that Mia Sotis mentioned is for older students. That's for middle schoolers. So that's, I think, important to know. And then I would say there are some good resources online. So certainly, you know, I think probably ask your child's doctor what might fit them the best. But we do have some good resources for online that children may be able to use. And then I would also say I'm a psychologist. So that's, I'm an asthma educator, but also a psychologist. And so if children are really struggling with their diagnosis, if you're noticing it's not, it's really affecting them being able to take their medicine or how they feel about themselves, it's okay for them to talk to a counselor. There are many counselors who are good at understanding kind of how health conditions can affect overall health, and then also how mental health can affect our ability to take care of our physical health.
Okay, very good. And I actually had this question, the same similar question to the last question that we have in the Q&A, is to just share, how families can learn more about the asthma camp that will be coming for the next year. But the specific question this parent had was, it says here, my child is 12 years old, and I would like him to be able to learn in the asthma camp because he denied his condition and do not want to acknowledge it.
Yeah. So the link that families fill out, it comes to the same place. And when we start recruiting for asthma camp, that's one of the first places that we go to find families who might be interested, or those who voiced interest already and who are in the right age range. We do also talk to our collaborators, school nurses. So often school nurses will let us know, oh, I have a student who would be perfect for asthma camp, and they really, provide a good case for that. So the other thing I would recommend is talk to your school nurse also if you're interested, and they often know how to get in touch with us. But certainly the link is probably the most direct way.
And there is a limitation in space in terms of the summer camps?
There is a
limitation.
limitation.
It is statewide, or do you have that offered every city?
Statewide.
It's statewide, although we do prioritize families from urban areas, because we know, that those families are usually facing the most challenges. And also we do prioritize, children whose asthma is less well controlled, who medically kind of, really need the experience.
Okay, great.
But please do contact us if you're interested.
Absolutely. Yes, and for the parent also, just to add what Dr. Jalessa said in terms of the parent that it's in denial, well, not the parent, but the child is in denial of his asthma, we certainly would welcome them to, if you complete a survey and you attend one of our classes, to have that child attend and be able to learn from others, and see that there are many children in Rhode Island and all around the world that have asthma, and certainly provide him with more information and interaction. He can share his thoughts, and he can hear other children, what's going on and what's happening. So that way he can understand that this is a serious illness that we need to make sure that our lungs stay healthy if we want to grow up and be anything that we want to be. Our lungs are the motor of the body to be able to breathe and move forward. So it is important for them to keep it healthy before causing troubles in the future that it's caused a lot of harm, and it gets to a level that it's hard to remediate.
Very good. So I want to thank you both for joining us this evening. Actually, let me see. I think we might have one last question. Thank you. I did complete the survey, and thank you for all the resources information. Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Jalene, for joining us. So again, your information was obviously well received by our families. We really appreciate your expertise and invite you to come back. We offer the Parent University in the fall, but also the spring. And I guess I don't know if I should say this, but I don't think that asthma is seasonal, or maybe it is seasonal. It depends, I guess, as you mentioned earlier, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense to also talk about asthma, in the spring. So, we can connect again and just look at some dates for our spring session of the Parent University. So again, thank you so much for your time, ladies. I'm going to ask you to exit gracefully as we continue now our feedback. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thanks so much for this opportunity and for your attention and your commitment to your children's health. We really appreciate this.
Absolutely. Thank you. Ditto what Barbara said. And thank you everyone for welcoming and opening the doors to your community. Take care and happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Alrighty, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. You as well, Janet. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so Cynthia, if you can go ahead and add the feedback form. Just a reminder to all our families, please do not leave. We're going to get started with our giveaways. As we mentioned earlier, we have 3 items. We have a blanket, also 2 toys, one for a boy, one for a girl. And we are asking you to please complete the Google form. If you can look at the link, the very last link that Cynthia just entered in the chat, can you please click on that link? And as soon as the questions, appear, please make sure to complete them all and then go ahead and click on submit as soon as you complete the questions. So I know that we have, like about 22 folks on the call right now. I am going to see how many responses are coming through. So please make sure that you take a few minutes. The questionnaire that you're going to complete helps us shape and, helps us in terms of deciding on specific topics. And especially this one that I know that we have so many families that obviously have their children with asthma that sometimes can be complicated, a little difficult to understand. But if it's not asthma, if you prefer another topic, we do request that you go ahead and give us that feedback in the feedback form. Again, the link that's on the chat. And so, again, that information that you share will help us understand whether or not the information that was presented today was helpful to you. And so I'm going to go ahead and look for the questionnaire and just make sure that folks are, that we're seeing your responses, right? Just to make sure that you're able to submit those responses. So let me just see. And just a reminder, we have another session that's coming up this coming Thursday. And I will remind you in a minute about what that topic is. You most likely received the reminder or the notification just this past weekend, and you will receive a reminder most likely the same day. But Thursday, the topic is social emotional skills, the building blocks of optimal learning and health and wellness. And so I want to strongly encourage that that you attend this session that's coming up on Thursday. Is going to be very, very interesting. You know, social emotional learning is something that for many of us, we probably never went to a class or went to a workshop, or maybe never attended a discussion about social emotional learning, but it has a lot to do with social awareness, also self-awareness, self-regulation. And this is something that we are trying to help, our students understand, but also our parents, because then you can go ahead and reinforce this development, right? Because it's only through experiences and conversations that are ourselves as individuals, we form socialization. And so please, we encourage you to attend this session. We have our experts in social emotional learning from our social emotional learning team. And so please make sure that you try to attend as best you can. Again, that's this Thursday at 6 o'clock on Zoom as well. And so you'll receive a reminder most likely on the same day, on the 28th. If you know of anyone else that might be interested in this particular topic, please invite them to, click on that link as soon as they see the Zoom reminder to make sure that they take advantage of the opportunity where we will have a district expert. And so I do see some folks did respond to the questionnaire. And so I'm going to just wait another few seconds to grab some of the responses. Again, we're asking that you try to respond so that way we can learn from you whether or not this information that was shared today was helpful. but also, some ideas that we could go ahead and consider for future topics moving forward, especially in the coming spring. Okay. So we have about 12, 13 folks that have completed the survey. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab names here. So I'm sorry if you're still filling out, but I'll wait another second to see if we have another person come through. We only want you to respond to the questionnaire once, just to be fair. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just waiting to see if another name comes through. If not, I'm just going to go ahead and grab those that have responded thus far so we can respect the time. It's already 7:30. Okay, so please look at your screen. I'm going to go ahead and add names. I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I see. Okay. Alrighty, so for the first prize, again, it's the blanket, nice and plushy and warm. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and spin this wheel. The names of those who participated in completing the feedback form are listed here. Okay, Zunilda. Congratulations, Zunilda. You won a nice plushy, warm blanket. I just want to remind everyone, please look at the chat and you'll see our address. We need for you to try to claim these giveaways within 5 days. So please stop by our office at 379 Washington Street in Providence. We're right behind the administration office. So Cynthia is going to go ahead and add our address and our phone number, please, just in case you don't know how to get here, that we will provide you some guidance. So again, congratulations to Zunilda. Our next prize is a boy gift, right? So it's triple loop challenge. It's like a race car track. So this is for the racetrack boys gift. So this is for Paola Maldonado Moreno. Congratulations, Paola. Please stop by within 5 days to pick up this gift. Thank you so much. And then our final gift here is the Disney Princess Super Activity Collection is here in my office. It's nice and big. But again, this is a girl gift. This is a gift for a young girl. All right, so Miguel Jacob. Congratulations, Miguel. Again, congratulations to all our winners. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please stop by, look at the chat. The address and the phone number to our office is here, listed in the chat. We would like for you to make sure you come by, at least by Friday, no later than next Monday, so you can come by and claim your gift. Remember, these are some gifts that you can use for this coming holiday. Alrighty? Okay, so thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank you again. And thank you again to us, Spanish interpreters.